Jeez. Oh, hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Guns and Cameras podcast. You know, ever since the Wild West immortalized the gun belt, we have been building on that idea, and we have arrived at the modern battle belt. Our next guest has taken the modern battle belt one step further and has created what he is calling the videographer's battle belt. And it is a fantastic piece of equipment, let me tell you. It holds your lenses, your batteries, first aid, dump pouch, everything you could need if you're a photographer, videographer in our defense industry. And I think that's something I could get into, and I think you guys could too. So without any further ado, let's get into the episode, shall we? Shooters, are you ready? Stand by. Hey, what's up, guys? Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Guns and Cameras podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Best, and it's Friday, and today I am joined with a very special guest. Probably has one of the dopest camera utility belts I've ever seen, Mr. Jacob Fuchs from J Infinite Media. Thanks for joining us. Jacob, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh boy, where do I start? My last name's a doozy. We'll start with that. So I guess to stay on track with guns and cameras, we'll start with the guns, the cameras, and why we're at the place we're at. I own a media productions company out in Arizona, primarily focused on firearms-related content. I also go into faith-based media, small business stuff, and documentary work as well. Man, and I wish I had more about me. Other than that, I'm a pretty standard white guy.
Well, that says a lot. So, where'd you grow up? Are you from Arizona all the time, or did you start somewhere else?
I would say I was raised in Arizona, but I was born in La Grande, Oregon, so I'm actually pretty familiar with the Northwest. I got all my family up there.
Right on.
Yeah, but I'm a desert boy.
Okay, awesome. I love the desert. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, but whenever I visit the desert, it's one of my favorite places to visit, so I can relate. Let's see. How did you get started with photography? Let's start there. Or videography. Let's go with that.
Sure. Well, the interest initially came by, I knew I had wanted to join the Marine Corps when I was young, and the MOS that had enticed me the most was combat correspondence. I wanted to do photo, video for combat operations or just general media within military branches. When I was in high school, I was living in Georgia, Warner Robins, Georgia at the time. I was diagnosed with a heart condition and was told I could no longer join the Marine Corps. Could no longer do any branch of the military, EMS, fire, police, anything like that. I wasn't even allowed to work out for a long time. But I took that and I pivoted my interest in videography to strictly videography with sans military, police, anything like that. Once I delved into that, I got into all the film classes in high school, production 101, theater, all that performance level stuff, and took it from there. There was a school in Arizona called Huntington University that shot their film program down into Peoria, which is where I'm close to. Studied there for 3 years, did all the fun indie filmmaker stuff, and ended up working for a shooting range after completing 2 to 3 years. I didn't graduate, but you don't need to. Anyways, there's my semi-political school rant. I started my own business after working at C2 Tactical in Scottsdale, Arizona for about a year and a half. Doing their video and photos, and now we're here, and it's been a roller coaster ever since.
Let's just kind of go back real quick. I want to touch on this briefly. So that's a pretty major blow to find out that you have a heart condition and your whole life plan is not going to be your life plan. How did you kind of process that, and did you roll that into any creative motivation?
Well, if it's anything that my family taught me, it's that life will never typically go the way that you want it, but you can control the sails, but you can't control the wind sort of aspect. You'll be dealt hands, you'll be dealt cards that you may not like, but you have to adapt because there's no other option. So I've kind of taken that mentality into well, if I can't do this, what can I do with the rest of what I can? And that turned into media production side, focusing on the camera, not so much on the military thing. But I mean, looking back at it now, I'm kind of doing exactly what I wanted to do without having to go that specific route. So, I mean, I'm a really faith-driven guy. I believe God has a plan for everybody, and you just can't control the path to get to where you need to be.
Sure, right on. So let's talk about guns then. So have you always, did you grow up with guns?
Sure. Yeah, no, my family was not a huge gun family. My mom's side, they were full of hunters, and my dad's side, my grandpa served in World War II and never wanted guns in the house after that. So there was no real comeuppance into the tactical firearms realm. I kind of discovered that all by myself, played Halo for the first time as a kid, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Moved into some video games, and then moved into, like Nerf guns. Then it progressed to airsoft, then a little bit of paintball, but we'll skip past that. And then into real steel firearms once I could actually own and practice train with firearms. I kind of had a fascination for it on my own.
That's awesome, man. So talk a little bit about tell us about J Infinite Media, right? So how did your company start? When? How's it been going so far?
Sure. Yeah. So it started out as a idea when I was in my freshman year of high school. I had another Jacob alongside me, and we were sitting down. We knew we wanted to make movies for a living, but we just didn't know what we were going to do, what our logo was. So we took the two J's, right? We were like, how can we turn this into something really cool? And we're just, playing with our fingers here, lined up to that logo, and now we're at that beautiful sign right there. So yeah, that's how kind of the brand and the imagery got started, and we moved into more action movies. Those really embarrassing 14, 15-year-old movies that we all have. They're all stored away to never see the light of day. Just practiced and made stuff.
Out, bro. You got to bring some of those back out.
My excuse is they're not on this laptop. So we'll just leave that there. I'll show you the Maxim Defense stuff instead. How about that?
All right, that sounds great.
Cool. But yeah, that's how it all got started, and then it kind of took a hiatus as I was going through college, learning filmmaking, getting into the artsy side of it, the technical side. And as soon as I got my job with C2 Tactical in Scottsdale is where the growth with the firearms media really merged with, oh man, I want to own my own business, I want to do my own thing. I got that entrepreneurial kick to just, stick it to the man and go start my own thing. Haven't looked back. It's been 2 years and 6 months, almost 7 months of me owning this business, and I think it was the best decision I ever made.
Let's talk a little bit about camera gear, right? So
sure.
I have other questions about the business, but I'm just curious, what has been your camera platform, or have you jumped around? What do you run now?
So I started out in college with a Panasonic GH4. It's actually right up here is my stationary camera that stays in the studio now. Beautiful 4K, cinema, or what do they call it? Cinematic 4K, I think they call it, true 4K. But after that, I got to experiment with a bunch of different cameras, like Canon C300, C200s, a bunch of Sony line. But the one that stuck out just for the pure usability and easeability, it was Blackmagic. I mean, I'm stuck on the 4K 6Ks.
Nice. Mm-hmm. If you had a dream camera rig, what would it be?
Right now, is money an option? Is money something I'm concerned about?
Hey, this is your dream rig, man. So dream big or dream small, it's up to you.
Oh, I like that. Right now, realistically, I would love to get a Pocket 6K, the actual Leica one, full 6K frame. Mm-hmm. Probably a Canon adapter and some, I'm thinking glass. Glass is such a hard option. I've been running the Vedras for a long time. I used them in college. I fell in love with them and I got them at a great deal. But something super fast. Well, I mean, what do you think? What do you think is a good piece of glass? Everyone's like Sigma Art, but I'm like, no, I want a full cine set,
Yeah, no, bro. Like, so yeah, if you're dreaming big, let's see. Oh man,
I mean, I already picked a Pocket 6K. I could go way bigger than that.
I was gonna say, bro, if this is your dream rig, I mean, the 6Ks are great, but I was thinking like I was
That's
waiting
fair.
for the Ari Alexa, like
Oh, that's a cop out.
red
Everyone wants the
Komodo,
Arri
red.
Alexa.
And then as far as glass goes, it's funny because when you're talking to camera guys, right, especially nowadays, you kind of get there's the old dogs, there's kind of the new guys, and then you have like, but most people I think get that the camera body is one thing, but the glass, like people that's a big one, right? When I started shooting on Cineglass, I was running at a university. I was working for the marketing and communications department, and they ran an old school like vintage Zeiss primes.
Beautiful.
And they were awesome.
That's cool.
I like old glass. I'm not going to throw out names because honestly, I will admit that the old glass, my love for old glass is kind of new, right? Like I've been shooting mostly on the new Sony stuff, you know, a lot of the G Master sets. I mean, that's what I've been running. But the more I run those, the more I've been developing appreciation for glass that has its own texture, right? And a lot of the vintage glass is going to have that. Gee whiz. But video
I'm
is
pulling
a lot
up my
different
B
than
and H
photo,
list right now.
Yeah, right.
Yes,
Pulling
that's
up
for
the
sure.
shopping list.
God, this wish list go for miles.
But there is
long.
definitely in cinema. If you're talking cinema, there's like a whole list of prime lenses, Cineglass, that a lot of people haven't even let their brains go there, because you're talking like $250,000, $500,000 a piece for the really expensive stuff, and that's like so not on most people's radar that it's like, you know, forget it.
You're lucky if you're renting them for half an hour, sort of deal.
Right.
If
you
the
get
ones
to look
that
at it, you're like, whoa.
That's true. They belong in a museum.
Right.
Please get that reference. So the ones I have been looking at, the ones that would work best, I think, with the Pocket 6K rig are these Venus Optics Nanomorphs, the Super 35 ones. Just because amber, flare, you get anamorphic primes. They're super fast. I think they're like, what are they? Let me take a look here. I want to make sure. 2.4, I think. I want to make sure I get this right. 2.8. Okay, so they're 2.8, but on a full frame 6K. That's going to produce a lot of bokeh. They're pretty fast. Nice squeeze on the anamorphic. Yeah, and just the amber flare. I mean, I got to keep true to the color scheme. And if I'm going to get that anamorphic flare, it might as well be orange.
Right.
What's your thoughts on like anamorphic, like that, I don't want to say Michael Bay look, but the Star Trek, like, what's your thoughts?
Oh, I
Is
love
it going to be
man.
overdone?
That's my jam, bro. Lens flare all day.
Beautiful.
I love running anamorphic lenses. And if I can't run an anamorphic, a lot of times I'm using like a what do they call them? The Polar Pro's got the blue morphic and the gold morphic filters.
Yeah. I just got the K&F Concepts one. I'm going to try this out. It's one of those like fake anamorphic lens flare things.
Yeah, so for one of my projects, I ran, I have the Suray 50 mil anamorphic that I've been kind of playing with. So I run that on one FX3, and then I'll use some Sony glass on the other, and I'll throw the blue morphic filter on there so I can match kind of the look of the lens filler. The only thing I don't like about using the morphic filters, obviously true anamorphic is best, but if you close it down right, you start to see the lines of the filter, which I ran into one time, and I learned not to do that. So you have to kind of run them wide open all the time.
Yeah, super wide. Can't cheap out on them.
No.
Yep.
But yeah, sweet, man. So that's not a bad dream camera. That's a realistic option. If you had an unrealistic option, I mean, we already talked about it, but what was your biggest?
I don't know. I'm just such a huge fan of the post production on Blackmagic. It just makes so much sense to me.
Yeah. So you're Resolve guy, right?
No, believe it or not, I still love
Blackmagic cameras. Don't love their software.
Yeah, it was more just I looked at DaVinci, and it's super user friendly compared to like Mac and Apple, right? Mac is Apple, Mac and PC. I compare it to that, where I can use Adobe and all of their stupid, intricate little pieces you have to get used to, but you can do like just that little bit extra more with that, like the tiny effect, you can just plug and play right there. It just makes more sense.
I gotcha.
You're wrong, but I get it.
No, it's okay. See, my animosity towards Adobe's like Premiere, look, in my opinion, the best piece of software to ever come out of Adobe was After Effects. That's I think, right? Premiere, I started in Premiere, and like 15 crashes into one project 5 or 10 years ago. I was like, that's it, I'm done. I'm gonna find something else. And fair. Resolve was free, so I'm like, I'm going to test that out and try it because I wanted to grow more in the color grading side of things. And because that was, so let me give you a backstory. So real quick, I was working on, it was a beauty ad for a jade face massager for an Amazon listing. And they wanted that super blown whites, like, Avon look, right? So we did that, but then I was trying to get the skin tones on this gal correct, and was fighting Premiere and was trying to learn how to do this. And then I just kind of learned that when I dove into Resolve's color grading options, which is what Resolve was made for, I was like, it clicked in me for Resolve. I don't care for Premiere's approach to color grading, kind of the old school like Photoshop, like sliders kind of thing. I like Resolve setup for that. I do like the NLE editing side of Premiere if it could just run smooth for me. But
I agree. The crashes is always the worst part. So on that note, for the color grading side, I do actually have a plugin. It's the Autochroma Blackmagic Studio, and it works so much better than having to use the stock in standard, free Blackmagic plugin that you use.
Yeah, cool, man. I love it.
Definitely get that.
So let's talk a little bit about guns.
Sure.
What was your first gun? Do you own guns still? I'm assuming yes.
Yes.
What's your favorite? What do you got in your gun bag? Let's go there.
Well, let's see. Arizona's the Wild West, so I get to have as many things as I want, thankfully. My first ever gun was a Ruger 1022. Go figure. I got it when I was 12 as a birthday present, and it's stayed with me ever since. It's seen its modification. I could go grab it right now.
That's pretty awesome. And I will say, for a guy that didn't necessarily have a super pro gun, well, not a pro gun, but not huge in guns family, 12 for your first gun is pretty young. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the hunter side of my mom. She got her first, Ruger Blackhawk or Ruger, the little 22 pistol. I can't remember which one that is, but she got her lever gun and her revolver when she was 12, so it was only customary.
That's awesome.
So this is the current version of the Ruger 1022 right now.
Nice.
I know. Super, again, Ugandan warlord. I taped or paracorded this sling to it. But this thing, it just drills. Totally, you can hit nails on the head at 100 yards with this thing.
That's awesome.
It was a Ruger 1022 takedown, so it actually has the separating barrel, but no more.
Love it.
So that was the first one. After that, I had gotten this one, Hunting Family. They needed just a bolt gun. This is a Ruger American in 308.
There you go.
Yeah, got this, I was so young, I got this Harris bipod off of an old, Marine Corps sniper in the neighborhood who was just I don't need this anymore. Here you go. So that was good. Next was the 12 gauge. This is just Maverick 88, 12 gauge, standard punch holes and shit kind of gun.
Sweet. Love it.
After that was the AR. This is my current AR setup right now.
Nice.
It's a Radical Firearms FR16 with a Cabela Special Burris hunting scope, the 1-4 LPVO, and then just a flashlight up front. This thing's the workhorse. I want to invest into a nicer, probably AR pistol eventually, but it's just the do-all.
Awesome.
And then our final one, so we don't bore anybody, is this Yugoslavian SKS.
Sweet.
Got this for $200 at C2 when I was working there. It's got the original sling. This thing was covered in cosmoline when I got it.
Awesome.
I'll take that. My lovely assistant handing me another drink.
Right.
This looks responsible, right? Okay.
Definitely.
Perfect. It's got the single blade bayonet on the front and the leaf sight for the grenade launcher,
Dude,
because it still has that attachment up front.
Dude, slick.
And then the Glock. I gotta bust out the Glock, of course. Ugh. That's all the long guns. We've got a Glock 19X. This is my first and only handgun. It's got a TLR1 HL up front. I think that's better in the light. A Holosun 407K and a Faxon barrel and a compensator eventually. I've got to get new set lugs for it.
Sweet.
But
love it.
yeah. That's that.
That's awesome, bro.
Thanks, dude.
That's an excellent
What's
collection.
next? Thank you.
That reminds me of, so it's funny because some of the other people we were talking about, how every videographer slash photographer kind of goes through the similar stages when they first start out, right? Of the kind of content they're shooting. Usually it's like you have the goofy 14, 15-year-old movies, right? Which I can exactly picture what those look like because I have my own. But also with photos, like photographers have this funny progression where they start out with like mostly nature, right? Some landscapes, and then they move into like nature macro, right?
Right.
And then from there they move into light painting, and then we all like almost everybody goes through the same progression, right? As they learn how to work with their cameras. It's kind of funny with gun collections, like you have almost the exact quintessential, like that is the foundation of gun collection startup, right? Where you have the 1022, then you got the hunting rifle, then you got the 12 gauge, then you get the AR, and then you get the handgun, right? So those are like exactly quintessential starting point for gun collection, which I love. So it's awesome. Just
like filmmaking and shooting, it's all about the fundamentals, right? You got to start with the basics.
Exactly. And as you progress, you start cultivating and figuring out, like, hey, I don't like this. I'm going to go with something else, which is pretty fun. Let's kind of go back to the business side of things. So, J Infinite Media started out 2 years in. What do you think about the industry from a business standpoint? What have you seen in the 2 years since you started to now? How industry has changed and kind of ebbs and flows. Kind of break that.
It's been, I honestly, if I had to apply one word to it, it'd be growth. And nothing but just exponential growth into what we are collectively coming to as a community. You know, when I hopped into it, or when I started seeing these things when I was little, it was all like, you know, Gunside Academy, or these single individuals who are just being heroes with guns, like Jerry Mikulek, I forget how to say his name. But it was all like cool shooters and not so much like brands or associations. It was all just like FPS Russia kind of stuff is how I can best describe that, right?
The OG gun too.
Yeah. And they started it all out, you know, and they kind of set the foundation for what we were going to grow up into. But now it's as vibrant as any other industry. I mean, you want to put it towards cameras being one of them, or health, lifestyle brands. You know, it's just as relevant nowadays. And I'm not sure if that's because it's probably a good mix of political climate and a good mix of just personal interests not being so shunned anymore, you know?
Even though, so I'm going to interrupt you for a second because one of the things that I'm curious about, right, because it's cool to see an industry thrive in the midst of so much suppression, right? Because we are growing despite them trying to not have this industry grow, right? Because we don't get the luxury of having unsuppressed marketing for our content. Like, we're trying to do this stuff while being held down as much as possible, and yet we're still growing. So carry on.
No, I think that's a great point. And I think the thing that really drives that point home is that we're open to facts and conversation. You know, there's no room for exclusiveness inside of the gun community. If you have a need to defend yourself, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter where you came from, it doesn't matter what you do, but you can be a responsible firearms owner. And that is all enticing and all encompassing for everybody. So as soon as people are given that option to, you know, be included in something that actually like is beneficial to them, there's no reason to knock it. So you can try to attack us with, you know, ad campaigns or political standpoints, or, you know, anything you want to do to try to shut down a firearms community or a community in general. And we'll just be like, well, here's some factual statements, make your own opinion on it, and let us know what you think.
I found that most people that own guns, you're talking about responsible gun owners, right? Most
Yeah.
of those people, which is there's a lot of them, right, tend to be the more level-headed people, right? I don't want to dive too much into politics because if we did, we'd be here all night, I'm sure, and it would turn into a rant. But when it boils down to people wanting to make the decision to be able to own and understand what the Second Amendment means and what it's for, right? What it was intended for, those people tend to be more in tune with, again, inclusivity, being willing to have a conversation and listen. They tend to be more reasonable people, again, which is why I chose to be in this industry despite the not negativity, but despite the challenges,
The controversy,
right?
yeah.
Right, and the controversy of it. I made the decision a couple of years ago that basically, I'm a Christian dude, grew up in the church. I believe in speaking truth, and I kind of was working in an industry with marketing agencies where, pretty woke, right, going down that road. And I was like, you know what, I don't want to do this. I would rather work in an industry where I can stand up for truth and be authentic to who I am and create that kind of content than any other industry. And this is kind of a natural niche for that, because this is where people are true and authentic to themselves and they create that kind of content. So
yeah, I totally agree. And you had mentioned getting into the faith aspect, right? You get to be yourself unabashed. You can invite any opinions that you want, but it still won't affect you and your personal decisions and your personal faith.
It boiled down to one piece of scripture, right? It was like that, for I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, right? And for me, that was kind of one of those things where it's like, I do not want to, I would rather have to work hard every day to be successful and be true to myself than take the easy road and have to be a closeted conservative every day in my job.
That's right. Yeah, it's nice to actually be able to speak your mind and belong to, the true self, the true self.
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about you've chosen the agency route, more or less, right? So J Infinite Media, you are a production agency, production company specializing in media for faith-based businesses and Second Amendment defense industry stuff. Let's talk about the difference between taking the agency route and going like freelancer, right? Because they're a little bit different in their approach. Can you kind of unpack that decision?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily count myself out of the freelancer. J Infinite Media is a one-person show. I like to use contractors because not only I don't want people working for me, I want to work with people. Yeah. So my ultimate goal with J Infinite Media is to create a platform or a group, a community of sorts of filmmakers to create what they want to create and tell the stories that need to be told is really and I want to make sure people kind of stay at the respected level. Like, you have your rates, I'm going to pay you your rates because you deserve your rates. And we can all kind of build together the rising tide raise all ships approach. This is helping me talk. I'm not sure how well it is, but yeah, so you mean like freelance as in not starting a business or legally starting an entity and just doing it yourself, correct?
Right. Well, and there's kind of like, and I guess freelancer you could kind of roll into like, like personality or content creator is the label.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah. The individual name versus a brand name is what you mean. Okay, sure. Well, I felt like starting a brand and starting an actual business, one, is beneficial for tax reasons. So just owning an entity is really nice. And then I wanted to have a label that was kind of larger than myself. I wanted it to be an all-encompassing group and not just me. I don't like the spotlight on me, which is typically why I'm behind the camera. So,
except for today. So congratulations.
Except for today, that's your fault, man. That's all your fault. I did this for you.
Watch, if you become famous, you're welcome.
No, thank you. I'll invite you to whatever restaurant you want. Just pick one.
Sounds great.
Okay, did you record that?
I did. I got it.
Damn it. Okay.
You heard it, everybody. Okay.
Shit.
So it's cool because it's fun chatting with you because you and I have such similar approaches to what we're trying to build.
Yep.
Because I started out, so let's if this show is supposed to be about you, so I don't want to hijack.
No. I had a list of questions for you too. So
all right, sweet. So like one of the things that I'm passionate about right now, this is the whole reason why Guns and Cameras is kind of starting, is that one, I'm a relationship guy, right? First and foremost, I love working with people. I love meeting people. I don't like being alone. And so part of what I'm doing right now is 1156 Productions is kind of in this transitionary period where I launched this video that I've been working on with Ronin Tactics for about a year. And that video went out, and no kidding, like I threw just about everything that I had at this video that I've learned when it comes to color grading, texture, editing, music, sound design.
it shows.
Right? Oh, thanks, bro. But kind of threw everything at it, and then you know how when you release a piece of work like that, it kind of is like there's almost like this after depression where you kind of enter into this like, okay, that's been the big piece. Now what's going to come next, right?
Yep.
And I kind of made the decision after that piece went out. I was like, I'm done doing commercial work. Right? I was like, I've been wrestling with this whole concept of consumerism, right, in our culture.
Yep.
And my part in it, and whether or not that is something that I want to continue, because at the end of the day, if you're doing commercials, right, the point of that content is to hook somebody with a catchy narrative and then get them to buy, right?
Yep.
And for me, I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to put all this time and effort into what I've learned about storytelling and all of the artistic approach to film, and then only have that be to make people buy something, right? Yep. And so I was like, you know what? I'm done with that. Which is kind of like, that's the whole moneymaker of the business is commercial work. Right? Because everybody's hiring me to create social media reels, 30-second brand videos, commercials, all that stuff to help sell their product. And I'm like, okay, I'm making the decision to say 1156 Productions is no longer accepting commercial projects, which surprise you guys if you're watching this and you hear this. But I'm like, I'm going to turn 1156 Productions only into a platform for feature-length documentary film projects, and then actual narrative film projects. Awesome. And it'll be self-funded if it has to be. But I'm like, if I stay on the commercial track, I will never be able to have the time to move into the stuff I actually care about, which is basically creating and telling stories that have no attachment to sales. Right? Yeah. Where it's like, the purpose of this story is to change somebody's perspective or through a narrative, right? Yeah. So this is a fairly recent decision.
That's good, dude. That's really good. I want to commend you on your decision to go the documentary route. I do have to bring myself back to my roots because, when you own a production company, it's rather young. Like, you got to make money. You got to go do things that people want to, pay you for. But when you go out and do a piece that actually matters, I want to roll it back to, I did a documentary in film school about my grandma. She was getting up there in age. She had just been diagnosed with cancer, had a fall, and she has 12 kids. And the entire documentary was about getting those 12 kids back together because they all, separated, did their own lives, and we managed to get everybody back together into one house, like it was bustling, like it was kids back when they were all children. And in that moment, I realized like how important documentary work actually is, not specifically for the video itself, but the moments that you're creating. And that's why I like to garner all of my work towards documentary style things. Whenever I do commercials or ads, I just say, hey, do what you're going to do and let me capture what you're doing. There's no need for a script if you already do what you do really, really well. And all of that is just to say, you can write a script anytime you want. You can make a fictional piece 20 years from now, 30, 50, 100 years from now, and it will still be the same that it was if you filmed it tomorrow. Documentaries are completely different because you have a certain time constraint. You have only this moment and these camera angles to capture what is really, truly happening. Right. It's important. It's very important.
Yeah, so documentary is part of it, and then the other part of it for me is going to be like, the goal is to work towards, again, my whole thing was like, I want to make movies, right? You said it earlier. Yep. It's like, hey, this is what I want to do. We all do. And the thing is like, I want to make movies. I want nothing to do with Hollywood. right?
Amen to that, dude. Amen to that.
So I'm like, crap. So that's the problem. That's like, hey, don't want to move to California, want nothing to do with Hollywood, but I want to make movies. Yep. So now what, right? And so a lot of that has been, one, trusting God with the details, right? Which is kind of the thing where I'm like, yo, I'm just some small dude from Spokane, like in the Pacific Northwest, that wants to make movies, and I'm just gonna let God handle the details, which has kind of been the story of my life, and it's been awesome. So a lot of people ask, hey, how'd you end up here? I'm like, yo, bro, God has moved in massive ways in my life. It's like it's been awesome to see. But the main goal is, like, I'm looking at the film industry right now, and if you're like me and you're watching these movies that are being made, you're like, bro, the standard has come down so far. Like, it's consumerism in film, mass-produced entertainment, because and it's all about data. It's all data-driven. It's all about money. It's not about telling a good story anymore. And you can see it, and people are tired of it. So I'm like, man, like there's a vacuum that's being created. And I'm like, I want to put together like the dream team of indie filmmakers and start a whole like independent movie industry production. That's telling the stories of like it'd be cool to do like a Davy Crockett like remix, like all the stuff that's not woke but truth, but done with excellence and old school movie making techniques. Because like here's the thing, right? You look back at some of these movies and you're like, yo, practical effects are gonna trump CGI any day of the week, right? And
a million times over for the pure charm of it. Yeah.
Oh man, you look at these old school black and whites and you're like, man, those movies still hold up. And they didn't have any kind of computers. So I'm like, let's go back to that. Do low budget, good story, or where it's all about story, and apply the filmmaking tools we have now to some of these stories. So that's kind of where I'm trying to get to. I have no idea how I'm going to get there, but anyway, I was thinking about that because I'm talking with you. I'm like, bro, like we need to be best buddies, because
we already are best buddies, man. We're drinking on a podcast together. I'm very happy. We have very similar goals, and it's important to maintain that track. And like you said, let God handle the details. Like where you're going to go, the destination you're going to be at, but the journey, He's got it.
And the thing is, that's kind of, and this is my approach, and so this may be something we should team up on, is we have these brands that we work with and these relationships established where, again, it's not about consumerism. It's not about necessarily selling their product, but to be able to reach out to these brands and say, hey, here's the script. This is what we're trying to do. Do you want to sponsor it, right? Because it's going to take money to make. People want to get paid. People got to eat. Right. But to be able to start, like, I'm like, hey, I'm going to start leveraging some of these relationships with these brands. I'm going to call them up and be like, yo, I'm making a movie. Do you want in? This is how much it costs. Yeah. And it's going to be not woke. It's going to be truth. It's going to go, here's the distribution plan. Because, people are consuming content and they are desperate for good stories. And there's just crap. They're just eating crap because there's nothing else to eat when it comes to entertainment. So anyway, there's my segue.
Yeah, no,
let's get back. Let's get off of my stuff and let's get back to your stuff.
No, that was a good segue. I feel like I would have talked about that if you just let me have 2 or 3 more of these. So,
right. So let's talk about what are you looking forward to? What are you stoked about? I mean, you're 2 years in. Your business is growing up. You're blowing up. What are you stoked about in the next couple of 5 to 10 years? Maybe not that.
I'm so stoked for just the connections. If I valued anything through the first 2 years, it's just the people I've met and the things that I've done. Like money comes, money goes, but like getting to really know people and understand who they are. Those post-shoot dinners. I'm just happy to meet more, connect more, and really be on an observing like level playing field to really get to know everybody and be a glorified fly on the wall with all of it. It's a very privileged perspective we have being filmmakers, because we get to see the ins and the outs of everyone we work with, and the effects that has.
You feeling lucky? Oh, hey, what's up, guys? We are halfway through this week's episode of Guns and Cameras, and that means it's time to shout out some stuff. This episode has been brought to you by 1156 Productions and by Tokens of Valor. Tokens of Valor is my side hobby where I take bullets and sterling silver and I turn them into one-of-a-kind, handcrafted totally hip wearables for both men and women. If you're interested in picking something up, go visit us on Instagram at Tokens of Valor. Send us a DM and we'll get something started for you. I really hope you guys are enjoying this week's episode featuring Jacob Fuchs. The man's a legend, and his battle belt is even more legendary, and I cannot wait for you guys to hear more about it in the second half of the episode. So let's, enough of me talking and lollygagging. Let's get back into the episode, shall we? What's kind of the biggest celebrity or the biggest project you've worked on and to date, and what are some fun stories connected with that project?
Oh boy. Well, I do want to shout out my regular clients, that because without them I wouldn't be where I'm at today. Josh, Logan, Guardian Training, Method Endeavors, and everyone in my business group. I appreciate you guys. My biggest project I've had to date, the one that I had the most fun with and had the most connections with, was definitely Maxim Defense.
Sweet.
Getting to go and film the Demolition Ranch Range Day.
Okay,
Getting
sweet.
to meet all the big YouTube gun celebrities and getting to be on the same level playing field. I would say that was the biggest, hoity-toity, I can say I did this shoot. That was probably the most fun because we got to blow up a Humvee. That was pretty damn cool.
That's amazing.
It was cool. I think I did send you a link to that, but I can also pull up that coverage video if you did want to watch it.
Let's dive into some of your work, man. Let's look at some of your stuff.
Sure. As I pull this up, I can share my screen. Yeah, perfect. So as I pull this up, I'll try to. I think the biggest and most important shoot I've done is I've done a lot in political realm as well. I've worked with a lot of very big political figures that are really going off right now. Carrie Lake being the biggest one. Done a lot of her media alongside of her awesome husband Jeff. And then I know it's all Arizona politics stuff, but got to work a little bit with Charlie Kirk, Dennis Prager. Got to work with. It was pretty neat. They're cool people. And then Mike Pence got to meet very briefly. That was very fun. Do a little bit of work with him.
I'm always curious. It's so fun when you get to meet some of these people because, you get to be the question is what are they like in person? Because there is the celebrity level, and it's if you get to work with the people closely. That's what I love. What we do is when you get to see these celebrities that when you only consume their content through media, and to be able to see what they're like when the cameras are off is always a special gem, which I love.
It is a privileged point of view. That's all I gotta say. All right, I've got the Maxim video pulled up. I will go ahead and
let's see if it runs. If it doesn't run nicely, we can always embed it later in post, and we can make it
tab out. That's true.
Run good.
Hey, Logan and Maxim Defense here. We're out here today at the Demo Ranch Range event with all the YouTubers out here in San Antonio, Texas. We came out with a bunch of our stuff here to show. Throughout the day, we got our 240 suppressor with our SDXs and a ton of cool stuff. Really excited about today.
Our general fundamental firearm safety rules, right? Treat every firearm as if it's loaded, know the condition of your firearm at all times, right? So just kind of expanding upon that. What we don't need is raining tourniquets like road strip mud, right? No, here's all the tourniquets, right? Because everybody's got a tourniquet, so we don't need.
Hey everybody, this is Tim with Maxim Defense. We're getting ready to put the golden spike into Brandon and Jonah's big day out here at Demolition Ranch. We are getting ready to send it into that World of Warships Humvee that you see behind me right now. So stay tuned. and wait till you see the after effects of what we're going to be throwing down range here in just a minute.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Thanks,
everybody
man.
was out there, man. Nice work.
It was pretty good. It was a good time.
That's so fun. Event stuff like that is always a blast, right? It can be stressful because you're like, going back to kind of this documentary film approach where it's like you only got one shot at a lot of these shots, right?
Yep. Don't miss
you
it.
can't be like, oh, hey, pause, like, let's rewind and blow the Humvee up again. You can only do that once. So
We don't have the budget for that, man. We
right,
got two
it's like you got
Humvees.
the other Humvee ready because I didn't get the first shot. It's like weddings. That's why I don't do weddings, right? Weddings
Ooh,
are too
I
stressful.
love weddings, dude. They just like a shot of, they're like a line of
Bro.
unnamed powder that I probably can't say on this.
Yeah, no thanks. Weddings, no thanks. I did one, and that
They're
was
great.
enough. I did one for videography and one for photography, and between the two, I was like, that's it. I was like,
Ooh, mama.
if it's a really
Yeah.
close friend, I will shoot their wedding, and I'll be like, look, I'll do it for you, but just know I'm not a wedding videographer. I'm not a wedding photographer, even though I do think the video that I shot for that wedding turned out really good.
Cool.
But it was too stressful. So again, this is why I don't do weddings. So I'd picked up brand new at this one wedding I shot. I had just got an FX3, was still getting the camera set up. I was
Nice.
stoked to have that. I was running a gimbal. I was the only guy. See, here's the thing. If I did weddings, I'd learned now that you have to have help. If you got to have
Yep.
at least one or two other people. So I was going
Yep.
solo, which was my first mistake. And
Yep.
then as the bride was coming down the aisle, right, the camera overheats and shuts off. And I'm like, every expletive I knew was running through my head. And I'm like, crap. And I had a stationary camera set back, so I did have some, but it was a terrible angle. And
Yep.
my primary, like my A cam was done. Missed the whole bride coming up, and then anyway, was able to get it working, but it ended up working out to my advantage because I grabbed the bride and the groom afterwards. I'm like, hey, I need you guys for like 10 minutes. I stole them from the photographer. I
Perfect.
found a natural wooded like aisle, set the groom at the end, reconstructed the whole thing only without the crowd. And so in the story of the wedding video, what happens is the bride comes up, and all of a sudden it's like the sound drifts away. Like in that moment, it was just them, right? Like that's all they
Don't you
cared
love
about.
that?
Slow motion bride walking through this tree tunnel. Groom's like was able to get all the shots. Ended up working out, right? But man, was I about ready to die because again, weddings. It's like, oh hey, can you go back and start again? That doesn't happen. It's a
They're
one-shot.
tough, dude. They're really tough. I'm not gonna lie. I've done, I think, a total of 4 weddings now, and they're always just a blast to be at. I like even if I'm not filming a wedding, I like being at weddings because you get to immerse yourself, and that's the whole beauty of documentary.
Sure.
Go in as a guest to the wedding with your camera and capture the mood, capture the feel that actually flowed through the entire time. Yes, are you sweating and running around all the time? Yes, but it's fun.
Yeah,
It's fun.
So this kind of is a natural segue into the next question, which is kind of one of the big themes for guns and cameras. 'Cause
Sure.
we already kind of talked about one of mine, but what is your biggest to date oh shit moment in work? Could be good, could be bad, could be both. But the wedding was one. Wedding scenario was one for me. What's yours?
Well, I'll have to pop it back to my political work. That was a huge long line of just oh shit moments, because when it comes to political work and working in the political realm, there's no planning. There's zero planning, which is really, really ironic. The campaigns that I worked on, yeah, right? You'd think that there would be, but it's all just like, okay, we're going here, we're doing this, we're doing that. Can you do it? I'm like, I haven't formatted any SD cards, but okay. So you use the space you have left and run with what you got. I was running a gig for Carrie, and she was making a grand entrance into one of the biggest rallies she had for her primary campaign. I'm like, okay, I'm set up. I've moved everybody out the way. I'm going to do this really nice move back alley, just a low angle, slow-mo, 60 frames a second shot of her waving to everybody. Mm-hmm. And as soon as she came in, whoop, camera gone, just off. And I'm like, what happened? Something went wrong. And I had no idea what it was. I was still pretty youthful into the black magic realm. I just got my Zhiyun crane. I was running. I got to put the belt on because I got to illustrate this for you.
Yep. Again, like I said, you guys, the most dopest utility belt ever. Which we have to...
So I'm here, right? I've got this whole get-up. Single-man production going on, right? These are coming out soon, by the way. Prototype is now turning into an actual physical product. And I'm here, big old Zhiyun Crane 3. Moving back, shuts off right as she's about to raise her hand and start waving. And I go along like I'm not missing the shot. Okay. All right, I'm never going to see the light of day on this one. And later, I figured out that the batteries I had, the Sony batteries that hook up to my Blackmagic, it's hooked up to the wall. I can't show you, but the power output can't manage the Blackmagic's power input for a certain amount of time unless they're fully charged. I put a like half to 3/4 charge battery on there, and it just biffed my shot. I turned like beet red, tried to smile my way through it, and that was the biggest. I will never forget that ever, ever.
Lessons learned. That's a good one.
The video came out okay.
Unreal. Yeah, that's dude, that's man. I wish I could explain to people some of the like the feeling that you have when those things happen, because it's like you know, it's like when if you how do we put it? It's like if you don't like public speaking and you get up in front of all those people, it's like that, only it's totally private. You're the only one experiencing it, right? Because your person you're shooting doesn't know it, right? Nobody else around you knows it, but you feel like everybody's staring at you and you're screwing up in the moment and you're like, crap. And your brain right away goes into problem-solving mode, like how can I fix this? How can I fix it?
Yep.
What's it going to look like in post? How can I make this up?
Yeah.
What am I going to tell
fix it
the
in
client?
post does not apply to this.
Right. Especially when it's something where they're like, you ask them in your creative brief where you're like, hey, what are shots that are important to you? And they're like, I want this. And you're in the middle of trying to get that, and then you don't get it. And you're like, oh, dang. What am I going to do next? Crazy.
Oh, man. It happens, and, you get varying levels and degrees of that. You can have a really mild one where you just, like, kind of forgot to roll on the first second or two. But then you have ones where that happens, and it's just the worst gut-dropping, heart-palpitating feeling in the world. And trust me, for a guy with a heart problem, it does not feel good.
No kidding, right? No kidding. Like that's one of my. I've had a number of those, right, where you're like, you get a take and you're like, oh, that was great, except for do it one more time because I didn't hit record. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that was fantastic. I think I can move a little bit closer this way.
Yeah. When I was doing TV shows, I would always put that under like the practice. That was good practice, but we're gonna do it again. Drones, though, I think drones are where I mess up the most, because the indicator on DJI, if I had one gripe that I could send over to DJI on some of their earlier stuff, was their record indicator was terrible, right? It looked like it was running, but it wasn't. And I had a number of those where that didn't work out.
Well, on like fast-paced shoots, you don't really have time to like, oh, am I recording? Am I recording? Like, you gotta get the drone up in the air.
Right? Yeah, totally, man. Okay, we'll get this question out of the way. Who do you think should be next on the show out of your network? Who do you know?
Oh, man. I don't know if he'll do it, but RMBT shoots some great stuff. And he's local to me. He does really good work. I would love to see...
What? RMBT?
RMBT Media.
Okay.
Also, man, I want to shout out so many people, because this is the coolest community to have video and photo work in. Everybody knows everybody. Young Waco. Go talk to Young Waco. He's fantastic.
Okay.
Man, hold on. Let me pull up my whole list here of people that I love. One thing I am trying to do, especially with the media production side, is on my website, I'm trying to open up a trusted contractor portal. because I know there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and if I can upload work or have other people upload work inside of a controlled space to be like, hey, I need someone to cover this, someone that I trust, they send their bid in, they send their portfolio, and just get selected for that. That would be a really cool thing to do.
That's a good idea.
So let's see. AR Vantage, Austin Reed, the man. He does Travis Haley's stuff right now for Haley Strategic. He's like their main guy, and cool. Just such a cool dude. We went and filmed a video together, a wedding actually. That was super fun.
Nice. Great
guy, real faith-driven dude. FMG, Mike Fennell, he does really good. He's based out of Cali, I believe, and then Owls Are Better on Instagram. He does really. I'm just gonna give you a whole list because I love.
You're gonna have to email me this because I'm not keeping up.
Okay, that's fair.
Send me an email of who you think should be on the show next.
Yeah, I will.
Sweet. So, let's talk about this a little bit. Our community is small. Everybody knows everybody for the most part, right? Whenever we go to these shows, everybody's rubbing shoulders. That's what's funny about SHOT Show. I was talking in one of the previous episodes where it's as much a camera show as it is a gun show a lot of times, because when you get into SHOT Show floor, if you haven't been, I'm talking to the audience here, but if you're watching this and you haven't been to SHOT Show, when you get into the show floor, the first thing is, if you're a gun person, it's just a wave of overwhelming. The first time I walked into that floor, I was like, I had all these big plans of like talking to all these different marketing directors, and I walked in there and I was like, well, my first day is out the window. My whole plan is just to let this, just absorb it, because it is unbelievably massive. But on top of that, you're also like rubbing shoulders with every major celebrity gun tuber you've ever known, and they have their whole entourage, which is usually one or two videographers, a photographer, and or a sound guy maybe. And you're it's funny because when you're running through the floor, you kind of look at the camera guy and you kind of give them the nod. It's like, what's up?
Yeah, hey man, you're doing the heavy lifting over here.
It's like respect. I know you're working, and I'm looking at your gear, and it's like I acknowledge you, right? Because if you're a video, it seems like if you have a camera, everybody ignores you, right? You're just the camera guy. Unless you're another camera guy.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
And so it's nice to be able to go into those scenarios, see the camera guy, and be like, "Yo, what up? Like, we'll talk later."
What's up, bro?
Exactly. It's like, nice kid. We're gonna talk about your gear, but let's talk about our community, right? So. Sure. Who do you think's crushing it right now? Who are you getting inspiration from? Who's blowing your mind? Let's talk about that.
Oh man. Well, first of all, your stuff is fantastic. I do want to put that out there. Is that your visual image is like what I want to be when I grow up. So you do a fantastic job. Caliber Row, Alexandria. She's she's crushing. Boss. She took my 24th birthday photos with my chickens out here on my 2 acres, and she just made me look like a movie star. It was so cool. She's killing it. And we're talking specifically media side, right? Because I can go in a whole slew of just gun industry people.
Oh yeah, let's talk. Yeah, just mostly camera. Whoever's crushing it. I mean, we can unpack influencers next if you want to too. But
yeah, sure. I mean, again, all the people I mentioned: Austin Reed, Young Waco, After Action. He's doing some cool stuff. I don't know anybody in this industry who's not killing it, because I think what the firearm realm kind of demands is excellence. You have to be on a certain level of production quality to even touch this realm. So if you're here, you made it and you do good stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I was talking because we just had Alex, her episode. It's going to be the first one that drops here next week, a week from today.
Sweet.
Which reminds me, I gotta get some promo stuff out for that.
Nice.
But we were talking about, like, I had a friend who reached out to me. He was a location scout in Chicago, and he called me up and he's like, bro, I wanted to get into the gun industry for content creation. I was like, okay, let me just let you know. It's from the outside looking in, it looks amazing, and it is. It's a great community, but it's extremely tight-knit. It's very small, and you really only have one shot at, you have to show that you're safe around live fire, right? You got to be safe and comfortable, and you have to be able to really produce good content. If you can't do any one of those things, right off the bat, it's kind of like you're out, right?
Yeah.
That, and you have to be willing to risk your entire social media presence, because as soon as you post anything with a gun, it's like you're done. Like you're shadow banned for life. Sorry.
Yep.
But yeah, man, truth.
No, I totally agree. There's one more person I do want to shout out. When you brought up like the like unabashed gun, like this is who I am person, that's Thomas Yoxel. He's a photographer here based out of Phoenix. Really, really crazy story. I'll let you talk to him about it, but he's a fantastic photographer. I met him while I was working at C2. We went out on a bunch of hikes and road trips and stuff and really got to know him. Great guy. I think he'd be a great person for your show.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll reach out. So
Cool.
let's move on to influencers. Who do you think's crushing it personality-wise in the industry?
Well, let me give a shout out to Matt Best right now with all the situation that he's dealing with, everything that happened. We all know what we're talking about. He's doing great. He's always putting out, good quality, respectful media. You look at him and you just like, I respect that guy. So out of like the big group of people, he's doing the right thing. Obviously you got Grantham, Brendan Herrera. They're all making great stuff. Out of the people I work with, I definitely want to throw it out to Josh Logan, Guardian Training. He's moving up in the world, not only in the media side, but in his own business. He's doing fantastic. Cool. Method Endeavors, they're homies, they're great people. La Rosa Training, Nick La Rosa, he's coming up on a lot of good stuff. He's not specifically firearms realm, but he's a fantastic jiu-jitsu instructor. I actually take personal lessons with him. And then my guys over at Air 500. Oh my gosh, Air 500 Armor, they're putting out some great stuff. Really great stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah,
check them out. I gotta check out all these people again. Send this to me in an email because I have
it's
some
a
notes.
mile long, dude.
Dude, that's awesome. I need to get out of. I gotta get out of Washington, bro. Like I love. Here's the thing.
Got a
I
home
love
here,
the Pacific
man.
Northwest. I love Washington. The area where I'm at. I don't love the politics. Every time, all y'all down in the desert seem to be just crushing it all the time. So I gotta get down there more. Got to find a way.
Well, you've got a couch to crash on if you ever end up here, so just let me know.
I'll take you up on that. You're gonna regret those words, bro. I'm just saying. Words
I
of
got
wisdom.
enough beer to deal with, yeah.
Yeah, let's move on to some. What do you got? So let's say somebody's just wanting to start out in this industry. What is one thing that you know now that you wish you knew back then that you can share?
Something I didn't know back then is that, I mean, the limelight is not yours. You're creating the limelight. And, I jumped into the media production side to, like, almost make a name for myself when I started out in college. I wanted to be the Hollywood director and go do all the cool, fun stuff and have a name. But, like, the more you get into it, the more you realize that doesn't matter. You get to showcase really cool things and showcase cool people. And you're okay with not having a voice in it. You're good just spotlighting the people that need to be spotlighted. So I would say if you come across a level of, I'm not important, you are very important, but you're important in the fact that you are elevating people to where they need to be. And that servant mindset, as soon as you adopt that servant mindset, the servant mentality, that's why my business's motto is blessed to serve. You really almost exalt yourself to a level of importance that is unseen, that is not meant to be seen, and you understand that very, very intimately. That's what I would say. The biggest advice that I can give, though, is don't quit. Just don't quit. You'll have bad days, you'll have good days, but when the bad days come, just don't give up. That's the only rule you have in your life and in your business is don't quit.
Dude, that's great advice. If you could pick, I don't really want to talk about gear. Never mind, forget it. I'm over the consumer.
talk about gear?
Part of me, like, dude, I just had I did a live stream the other day where I was just like, I'm so tired of all the new camera gear all the time. I was gonna be like, hey, what is a good starting rig for somebody? And I'm like, I don't even want to touch that because
Okay, all right. I'd be happy to.
I don't know. What did you start out with? What was your first one?
The first
ever camera.
The
You
first
said
camera.
Fuji.
Well,
yeah,
well,
you
had-
sat one down. I was going to ask you about that before you put it away. So what is this? Point
this
and
is
shoot?
the first camera I ever made a movie on. This was back in 7th grade, and it just kind of goes to the testament of like whatever you have, shoot with it. It's the same thing with guns. Like the best gun you have is the one that you have on you in that moment.
Dude, that's great advice. That's important. That's important to note, right? Like people ask me all the time, what kind of camera should I buy? And I'm like, yo, just get one that works, right? Like,
Yeah.
think about what your scenario is going to be. Do you need an action camera? Is a cell phone going to be plenty? Because again, cameras are expensive. And
Tell me about it.
we are, yeah, bro. And we, it can add up really fast. And YouTube tells you all the stuff that you can spend money on. And I wish I could return like 80% of what I bought over the last 10 years when it comes to production stuff, because a lot of it just sits in my cabinets back here. And, it's whatever works, right? It's, I had one of my professors in college told me, he's like, if you could learn any one lesson from this school, it would be that content is king, right? Story is king. That's why movies that are, like the Brave Hearts and the old ones where you watch them are like vintage cameras, rough looking image, but you're still watching them because the story holds up even today, right?
Correct.
That's why. So it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's the camera you have, which is huge.
Yeah, your lens doesn't, like your gear doesn't tell your story, you do. I still shoot all of my still photos on a Rebel T3i. Nice. And I'm happy. They come out great. Could I buy a Sony? Sure, but do I need to?
Yeah, but the thing is, right, like realistically, and this broke my heart. Like when I really let this sink in, I was just like, I hate, again, why I'm not doing commercial work anymore. It was like, everything is for the phone. Everything is for this screen right here. Everything. Photo, right, video, it all just boils down to, like, you could have pocket 6K, right? You could have an 8K, 10K, whatever rig. It all is going to be consumed. Who cares? Exactly. It's all going to be consumed right here. And photos, it's the same way. That's why I started doing prints for my photos, like making my own prints. I'm like, I need something that I can hold, because I'm so tired of again, it doesn't matter what you could have a 60, 80, 100 megapixel camera. Again, the photo is going to go on Instagram. It's going to be consumed by the phone. Right. And so it's just like, it kills my soul. That's why I'm trying to get away from it. The artist
it's almost as bad as seeing the dude with the gimbal and the iPhone. It's like, oh, this is where we're going?
Yeah. Damn. You're like, oh, bro. Ugh.
Yeah, dude.
But, okay, real quick. Let's wrap up here. But
sure.
I want to ask, you got to talk to me about your utility belt, because I gave you the intro with this. Let's talk about the belt, because it's legit.
So, man, I know this is like my thing. This is like Trung, he shouted this out on Instagram, and it kind of blew up a little bit. But this is a prototype, and I still use it on most of my shoots when I'm going solo. This is the Filmmakers Battle Belt, is what I've coined the name.
That is a great name for it. You need to have that on a patch and a sticker.
Oh, dude, that's the plan. I actually have some Photoshop designs that need to get done, and probably should have been done a couple months ago. But the entire purpose of this is to maximize the capability of the single-person shooter. When I go to a wedding, the reason I can run around and do everything is because I have multiple lens options. I can just tuck them in there, swap out on the spot. It's almost like a tack reload, like I've got my camera, I'm like, oh shit, I need to go to my secondary, and it's all right here. But what a perfect blend of the tactical realm and the firearms realm. What a perfect blend of the tactical firearms realm and the camera realm, because utility is everything for a single person shooter. And why not use the utility of the firearms, tactical molly system to aid you in that respect? So let me take you on a little tour of this. I think I'll just, I don't know, this will work. Yeah. Okay, so right over here, starting off, is just a general utility pouch. I use this primarily for, like, let's see what's in here now. Band-aids.
Okay, wait. Before we dive into this, let me just ask this question. Do you make these pouches, or do you get these somewhere else?
So I do source these. I don't make them. I do have a couple people in the works that want to make them. I don't have the sewing capability to produce these myself.
I was just curious.
But I do want to make these in-house pseudo,
Sweet.
Pseudo in-house. But general, it's just a GP, it's a general purpose pouch for everyday items, Kleenex, the SHOT Show hauls. We've got wet wipes and Band-Aids and pens, and all the useful stuff that you think you're going to need goes in this front tiny pouch.
Sweet.
I typically also use it for batteries. If I know I've got most things local, I'll just throw a bunch of Sony or Canon batteries in there, and they'll fit just fine. This next pouch over, we've got patches and stuff straight off of Amazon. Thank you. Is more production tool sets. So if I lay this out, it actually opens up into a little mini tray so it's kind of angled out. It's got, you know, your hex wrenches, your Sharpies, multi-tools, pens, and then a, you know, wrench, your Allen key that you never want to lose, general tool kit. And then in the front pouch we've got, oh man, have you seen these before? Have you used little T markers like this?
I have not.
So this is just, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever done for fast-paced shoots. This is just a little T intersection from like Harbor Freight.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So
saw you
it's-
raise your hand.
I was gonna say, do you use this for markers, so you just throw it down?
You just throw it right on the floor, and they're
Bro,
weighted so they don't go
brilliant.
anywhere.
So
Pick
brilliant.
them up, and you have multiple color ties for
Sweet.
multiple
Oh my
different
gosh.
characters.
Yeah, that is a great idea.
Seriously, take
Holy
it,
smokes.
dude. Take it. Yeah, it's super cheap, super smart. Just wrap it in spike tape.
Awesome.
Just a dump pouch for dumping stuff, water bottles into. And in the firearms realm, we've got a IFAK. You know, you've got your standard stop
I
the
was
bleed
gonna
items,
ask.
tourniquets, jet seals.
Yep. I was gonna ask if you have something like that on there. There it is.
You have to have it. Have to
Yep.
have it. And then lens pouches. These will fit any size of lens, except if you're going those ridiculous 1,000mm Canon. You know. But they also have Velcro on the side, and I have patches for each individual lens I have to know what is inside of that pouch.
Excellent. Love it.
And then the other thing I do have to replace, I'm not a big fan of the current system I have, but this is I'm trying to get the light on there correctly. It's like a speed holster. So what it does is it has a little ball bearing screw. Goes on my still camera, so I can shoot with my video
Just
camera.
works right in.
That's typically on a sling.
Yeah.
Drop it off to the side, pick up my secondary, which is my stills camera, snap photos, put it back in place, and go back to video. What's your split times on video to stills? Huh?
Dude, that sounds like I gotta ask you this.
Sure.
Do you see videos in your head before they get made?
Oh, I think in camera angles, dude.
Yep.
Like I'll be out on a date with a super cute girl, and I'll be like, hey, just letting you know, there's a camera right behind you over the shoulder looking at me when I speak, and vice versa. There's one looking at you, and then they like leave. So it's weird, but
Yeah, no, I think in images, and I had this whole like tack reload, like whole mashup video play through my mind as you were talking about the tool belt.
it was like panning across with that. Yeah, I totally got you.
Yep, dude, that's awesome. I love it. That's
One and the
excellent.
same, dude.
So I have your. Actually, it's funny because I didn't make it to the belt, but I was talking to a guy that was like a first AC. Or who was he? Maybe not first AC. He was the first AC on the shoot I was at, but he's a production assistant on some other projects. But he had converted a plate carrier to have like all of his stuff on it. I'm like, so there's your next product. So you got the battle belt, and the next thing's going to be the plate carrier.
Yep.
Dude, that's excellent.
Oh no.
I love it.
Is this a whole business or what? Oh god.
Dude, it is. You're gonna have the whole the whole tactical camera setup.
Hey, anybody who wants to manufacture pouches, send me a DM, will ya?
I know a guy that does that. But yeah, I always, all the time, whenever I'm carrying stuff, I'm like, man, I just need a third. If I had a third arm, that's the thing that is needed. And that looks like you got the belt set up.
Bags are overrated, dude. Just go belts and plate carriers. That's all you need.
Exactly. Smart.
Yeah.
All right, bro. How do people get a hold of you if they want to work with you? What's the best way for people to reach you?
Sure. So you have my website, jinfinitemedia.com. I hope you put some wording in there because it's like a very awkward URL. But then you have my Instagram as well. That's at jinfinitemedia. And then you can contact me either via email or phone and get in touch, and we'll start your project or get on something really exciting. Work on it together.
All right. Yeah, dude. Jacob, thank you. Guys, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Guns and Cameras. It was great to have you. We had a great conversation with Jacob. He's awesome. J Infinite Media. Be sure to go check him out. Follow him on social media. Stay tuned for more. We got a lot more coming in the future. Guns and Cameras. Thanks for hanging out. Have a great weekend, guys.
Adios.
And that's it for this week's episode of Guns and Cameras, featuring the legendary founder and creator of the videographer's battle belt, Mr. Jacob Fuchs of J Infinite Media. If you don't already follow him, be sure to go to Instagram, search for @J Infinite Media, give him a follow, and send him a DM saying, Jacob, When can I get my hands on the videographer's battle belt? Because you know you're gonna start seeing us out there at the range doing tactical reloads with lenses, batteries, memory cards. It's gonna be the new big thing, you guys. You just wait. It's gonna be guys running guns with battle belts, videographers shooting guns with videographer battle belts. It's gonna be epic. Thanks for hanging out with us this week, you guys. Stay tuned for more. We got a lot more coming. Guns and cameras. Have a great night.